Hey everybody, it's Brandon from Vintage King here with you again, and today I have something new and exciting to show you once again from Moog Music, the Matriarch. So there's been a lot of rumors flying around on the internet. Some clever people noticed that Moog had trademarked the name Matriarch recently, and there's been a lot of guesses and speculations as to what it's been. Happy to have it in front of me and show it to you firsthand. So this is it. It's a 4-voice paraphonic analog synth. You would think by looking at the faceplate, it's very similar to the grandmother. It's actually quite a bit different. There's a lot more going on here. Not to mention the 4 voices, we also have a dual stereo filter that has a dual peak with spacing. We have ring modulation, we have a much more extensive modulation section over here, and last but not least, we have a true stereo Bbd delay that actually is in stereo. You can run it in left-right, or you can run it in ping-pong, and it makes a great insert effect, it makes a great guitar effect, as we'll show later. And we have a full 49-key guitar keybed, lots more going on. We're gonna get into all of it, so let's jump right in. So the Matriarch is a paraphonic synthesizer. You might not be familiar with that term. Polyphonic is much more commonly used. But all paraphonia is, it's very simple. Basically, you have multiple oscillators, but instead of them each having their own dedicated VCA, VCF, all that sort of stuff, basically the oscillator bank here is just fed into a single filter, in this case a dual filter, and a single VCA, also in this case a stereo VCA. So instead of 4 discrete voices, you have 4 oscillators that are all feeding into the same source, basically. So with this magic switch over here, we can have it in 4-voice mode. This is exactly as you would expect. We can play chords up to 4 voices. In the middle here, we have a duophony mode, which means that we can take 4 of our oscillators, combine them into 2 voices. So we have 2 oscillators per 2 voices. And then finally, we have a mono or unison mode, which takes all 4 oscillators and stacks them up on top of one another. We get a really big, fat, monophonic sound. In addition to some of the features that I mentioned earlier, one thing I'd like to focus on is the mixer. This is a really, really great circuit. It's based on the CP3 mixer you'd find typically in the 900 series Moog modular. What's cool about it is at noon or 12 o'clock, everything is very clean and pristine that runs through it. But as we go past that, we get more saturation. So we can go from just a little bit of saturation to quite a bit of distortion. It's a really nice effect, and that's kind of where we get our dirt in the Matriarch. Next to that, we have the filter, which we mentioned. So this is a dual filter. What it effectively is 2 different filters controlled with 1 cutoff knob. But down here, we have the spacing knob, and we can separate those 2 peaks of the filter so that we get more of a pronounced effect as we sweep or modulate it. In addition to that, we have key tracking and our envelope amount, which also goes plus minus, so we can invert that or have it normal. We also have independent resonance control for each of those filters. Also, finally, we have this 3-way switch. We can route the filters in series, stereo left-right, or in parallel. Another point worth mentioning on the Matriarch is we have another utility panel. We have one of these on the grandmother, but now we have another. What's nice about this is the second one actually has another additional LFO that's free running. We have a square and a triangle outs, and we can actually control the rate as well, which is really, really nice addition. So let's get to the heart of it, the oscillator section, or bank. This is a really interesting layout. What's cool is that we have, of course, independent octave control for each oscillator and independent wave shape below that as well. So we have a traditional triangle, saw, square, and pulse width modulation. What's also cool, though, is we have the sync section right here. So these would be the independent pitch controls, or fine-tune controls, for oscillators 2, 3, 4. And we have this kind of master sync enable button. But just below these frequency or tune knobs, we can punch in and out the sync. So that's really cool. We can see here on the diagram, we can sync oscillator 2 to 1, oscillator 2, oscillator 3, or any combination thereof, and then punch that sync in and out, which makes for some really interesting effects. Very bright, brash timbres. Really, really fun to perform with. Another really cool feature with the arpeggiator and sequencer is similar to the grandmother in its layout. What's also really cool, and my favorite thing about the sequencer, is we have ratcheting, which, if you're familiar with ratcheting, basically within a sequence, say you have 4 steps per sequence. Within one of those steps, you can have like sort of a flurry of notes. So as opposed to like dot, 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 you could have dot, 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 dot. We also have this great purple section here, which is a nice welcome color addition to the Moog color palette. But this is the stereo Bbd delay. These are true Bbd chips. This is all analog under digital control, which is great because that means that we can tempo sync an analog delay. This is 2 separate Bbd chips. We can have them ping pong in left and right stereo field. We have a mix for that, dry wet, and our time, of course. And very similar to the dual filter, we actually have spacing. So that's going to give us a different delay time in the left and right channel, which adds a lot of really cool stereo variation. So everyone, thank you so much for checking out the new Matriarch with us. It's been a blast to use. I know I say that every time I review a synth, but this particularly is incredibly hands-on. Really comes to life when you start utilizing the extensive patch points. I think there's like 90 patch points in here. Really comes alive. I'm also personally curious, if you thought the Matriarch was going to be a 4-voice paraphonic synth, please leave a comment below. If you didn't get it right, please let us know what you thought it was. I'm very curious. And again, thank you. It's been a pleasure. If you guys have any questions about this or any other Moog products, feel free to contact us at vintageking.com or hit up one of your audio consultants.